There are discoveries that shake the field of astronomy, and there are discoveries that simply confuse astronomers. But then, there are the discoveries that crack the very floor beneath physics itself. These are the kinds of findings that force Nobel Prize winners to go silent in interviews. The kind that make cosmologists shut their laptops and whisper, "This makes absolutely no sense." They make even the most staunch defenders of the Big Bang stop mid-sentence because the data they are staring at simply should not exist. And the James Webb Space Telescope has just delivered exactly that kind of discovery. It is something so profoundly contradictory, so violently incompatible with our current theories of cosmic evolution, galaxy formation, and the origin of matter, that scientists are being forced to admit, reluctantly, nervously, and in some cases publicly, that something is fundamentally wrong with how we understand the early universe. Webb looked deeper than any instrument in human history. It peered beyond the cosmic dark ages into a region where only the first flickers of starlight were supposed to appear. But instead of finding faint, primitive baby galaxies slowly coalescing out of hydrogen clouds, Webb found monsters. Hyperbright, impossibly massive, perfectly structured objects that should not exist for another billion years. These are objects that are not behaving like galaxies, not evolving like galaxies, and not forming like galaxies. They're objects that may not be galaxies at all. As these images arrived one after another, each breaking a different piece of the cosmological model, a realization began spreading through the scientific community like a quiet shockwave. James Webb didn't just reveal new objects. It shattered physics. It all began with a single object, a small yellow blob hidden deep in one of Webb's images, barely noticeable among thousands of faint specks. There was no reason to suspect it was anything special. Nothing about it screamed cosmic anomaly, except for one detail that refused to be ignored. It was too bright. Not just slightly unusual, it was bright in a way that violated every luminosity model we have for the early universe. Initially, astronomers assumed it was a trick of distance, that it was closer than it appeared, the kind of misjudgment that happens often in deep cosmology. But spectroscopy ruined that assumption instantly. The redshift was enormous. The distance was real. Suddenly, they were staring at the most distant galaxy ever observed, existing when the universe was merely 290 million years old. But it didn't look like a baby galaxy. It didn't look chaotic, small, or primitive. It looked massive, structured, and fully formed. A veteran in an era where only newborns should exist. This is the moment panic began to quietly spread behind the scenes. Because if even one fully formed galaxy existed at that time, everything we know about early universe physics is wrong. Within days, Webb revealed that this object wasn't alone. It wasn't a fluke or a one-off. It was the first in a flood of objects that defy every rule in our cosmic playbook. Deep fields from James Webb are supposed to be windows into cosmic infancy. Quiet, scattered, faint points of light representing the earliest baby steps of structure formation. But when Webb turned its infrared eyes toward the darkest corners of the cosmos, what it saw was not infancy. It was activity, maturity, complexity. Webb found thousands of strange objects in these deep fields, and the more astronomers examined them, the more they realized they weren't looking at early galaxies at all. These objects are too massive, too compact, too bright, too organized. They do not match any known form of proto-galaxy from standard cosmology. And the worst part? They appear everywhere in the early universe. Not one anomaly, not two, but an entire population of cosmic structures that simply should not exist at that time. A recent study identified 87 potential galaxies formed between 200 and 400 million years after the Big Bang, a number so absurdly high that it directly contradicts the lambda CDM model, the very foundation of modern cosmology. One of the study's authors openly admitted, even if only a few of these are real, we must rethink galaxy formation entirely. This is the unbearable truth. Webb is not revealing a slow-growing universe. It is revealing a universe that appears to have skipped the opening chapters entirely. A universe that looks too old at the edges. A universe that matured too fast. A universe behaving as if the Big Bang timeline is either incomplete or wrong. As if massive, bright early objects weren't enough, Webb discovered something far more disturbing, something that violates basic physics. In every known galaxy today, only about 10% of the gas ever turns into stars. That limit is so universal, so stable, so deeply baked into astrophysics that it is considered a cosmic rule. But Webb has now identified 3 early objects where 100% of the gas is turned into stars. Every molecule, every atom, every particle converted. Under current physics, this is impossible. A galaxy cannot burn all its material instantly. It needs time to cool, fragment, and collapse. It needs cycles of starburst and quenching. But Webb's objects behave like they were assembled by an entirely different process. A process that does not appear anywhere in modern astrophysics. These objects are not behaving like galaxies. They are behaving like something else entirely, something for which we don't even have terminology. Some scientists now quietly suggest that these might not be galaxies at all, but an unknown category of cosmic object that predates every model we've developed. And that possibility is scarier than any anomaly so far, because it means we aren't just missing details. We might be missing an entire chapter of cosmic evolution. For nearly a century, we have believed that distant galaxies recede from us because the universe is expanding. We know that the farther away an object is, the faster it moves, some even faster than the speed of light. According to relativity, these galaxies should be invisible because their light should never reach us. But Webb sees them. It sees galaxies located beyond the so-called Hubble sphere, galaxies receding faster than light, galaxies that should be forever hidden behind a cosmic horizon. And yet, their photons arrive. The standard explanation is that the Hubble sphere itself expands over time, pulling new galaxies into visibility. But Webb's new deep field discoveries stretch that explanation to the breaking point. We are seeing objects that, according to our equations, should have permanently outrun their own light. If that is true, then something about our understanding of cosmic expansion is fundamentally flawed. Either relativity is incomplete, the geometry of space is more complex than we imagined, or the early universe behaved in a way no existing theory predicts. Webb has exposed the greatest paradox in observational cosmology. We're seeing things we should never be able to see. The observable universe spans about 92 billion light-years. But this number isn't a real boundary. It's a limit of visibility. And Webb is showing us objects so mature at the edges of that observable bubble that their existence implies something terrifying. The universe must have been structured long before the cosmic microwave background was released. The Big Bang model argues that the universe began in a dense, hot state 13.8 billion years ago. But if the earliest galaxies look too massive, too old, and too evolved at 200 to 300 million years, then the early universe was not a blank slate waiting to form structure. It was already structured. Some Nobel Prize-winning physicists are now entertaining a radical possibility. The universe may not have had a beginning at all. The Big Bang might not have been the start of everything, but a transition, a phase change, a reconfiguration of a universe that already existed. What might not just be showing us early galaxies. It may be showing us the fossilized traces of a cosmic era that preceded the Big Bang, a universe older than we can comprehend. If that is true, our entire cosmological history must be rewritten from scratch. The standard cosmological model depends on a singularity, a single point where everything began. But Webb's discoveries undermine the timeline so violently that the singularity itself becomes questionable. If galaxies formed everywhere at once, if structures appear too early, if matter seems distributed in ways that contradict the causal limits of the early universe, then the idea of a single birth point collapses. The only remaining explanation is deeply unsettling. If the universe is infinite today, it was always infinite. That means the Big Bang did not happen in one place. It happened everywhere, simultaneously across an already infinite cosmic expanse. And if the universe always existed in some form, then what Webb is showing us are not early galaxies. They're the remnants of processes that began long before the Big Bang became visible to us. This is not an adjustment to the model. This is the death of the model. Webb's most disturbing revelation is that scientists have no idea what these objects actually are. They aren't structured like quasars. They aren't behaving like galaxies. They aren't consistent with nebulae, clusters, or protostars. They are compact, hyperluminous, starred-in structures burning with impossible efficiency. According to spectroscopy, some of them have converted 100% of their gas into stars, something no galaxy in the known universe does. These objects are not following any known rules of formation. They are not fitting into any known timeline. They're not responding to physics as we currently describe it. They may represent an entirely unknown category of cosmic structure, something from a period of cosmic history we did not know existed. That means we aren't just confronting anomalies. We are confronting a cosmic identity crisis. After decades of confidence in our cosmological models, James Webb has delivered a discovery so catastrophic that it forces us to confront a possibility no one wanted to consider. The Big Bang model cannot explain the universe we see. Not the mass, not the timing, not the brightness, not the star formation, not the distribution, not the structure, not the expansion. Nothing fits. If these objects are galaxies, then the Big Bang model is fundamentally flawed. If they're not galaxies, then we have discovered an entirely new class of cosmic object appearing right at the supposed beginning of time. In both cases, physics loses. That is why scientists are panicking. Because when a telescope shows you something that should not exist, you are left with only two options: change the data or change the universe. And the data isn't changing. James Webb has forced physics to shatter. Now we must rebuild. When you take everything James Webb has revealed, the impossible mass, the impossible brightness, the impossible timelines, the impossible distances, the impossible star formation rates, the impossible expansion paradox, the impossible structure of the early universe, and you lay every contradiction side by side, something begins to happen. The pattern that emerges is not subtle. It isn't ambiguous. It isn't something you can patch with a placeholder theory or smooth over with clever equations. It is a pattern that screams, not whispers, that the story we've been telling about the universe for nearly a century is fundamentally broken. Because the galaxies Webb is showing us aren't early. They aren't forming. They aren't primitive. They're fully structured beasts appearing at a time when the universe should barely be learning how to walk. Yet, it is already running marathons, assembling compact objects faster than the laws of physics allow, building stellar populations at maximum efficiency, and behaving like it has skipped hundreds of millions of years of cosmological evolution. And the worst part, the part that leaves cosmologists staring at their screens in silence, is that these objects are not rare exceptions. They are everywhere. They are scattered across Webb's deep fields like cosmic landmines, each one detonating another piece of the Big Bang timeline. Even if only a handful were real, the standard model would collapse. But Webb shows dozens. Dozens that break formation physics. Dozens that should not exist. Dozens that contradict causality itself. Suddenly, you begin to understand why astrophysicists are panicking quietly behind the curtain. The universe Webb is showing us doesn't start innocent, small, and slow. It begins fully active, fully awake, fully structured. The early universe looks too mature, too old, too organized. And that forces a terrifying question. What if the universe didn't begin the way we think it did? What if the Big Bang wasn't a beginning, but a transition? What if the observable universe is just the surface layer of something much deeper, much older, much stranger than our equations were designed to handle? Because when galaxies appear too bright, too early, too massive, too evolved, the problem isn't the galaxies. The problem is the model. That is the realization James Webb has just delivered with devastating precision. We weren't wrong about the objects. We were wrong about the universe. The formation physics are wrong. The timeline is wrong. The expansion assumptions are wrong. The boundary of the observable universe isn't the beginning of anything. It's just the edge of what light can show us. And outside that boundary, the universe may stretch infinitely backward, not just infinitely outward. A universe with no singular point, no true beginning, no origin story. A universe that has always existed in one form or another. And Webb, with its golden eye staring into the darkness, may have just given us the first evidence of that eternal cosmos. So, if this video shook the way you see the universe, don't leave quietly. Subscribe because the discoveries coming next will be even more brutal. Like this video so more people can understand why physics is trembling. And tell me in the comments, do you think the universe had a beginning, or is Webb showing us something far older than the Big Bang?